A very good evening, and thank you. In terms of our investigations, there are two cases where Wiandre Pretorius was a person of interest. The first one being the IPID murder case that of Emmanuel Mbense, which IPID has been investigating for a number of years. In that particular case, IPID had identified 12 persons of interest, and I can confirm that Wiandre Pretorius was one of those persons of interest in that particular matter. You will recall just a day before there was an attempted hit on his life, IPID announced through a media statement that they had finalized the investigation into the murder of Emmanuel Mbense, and together with the SAPS, they've handed over the docket to the Director of Public Prosecutions for a decision. Now, in that particular case, we had 12 suspects, and of interest.
We've lost the sound to you again. I don't know why this is. I think the problem could be on your side. Brigadier, can you try and press again the very button you seem to have pressed the first time around?
Can you hear me now? I'm not audible.
You're still not audible. Let's try one more time. Oh. All right, we're going to just wait a few seconds while Brigadier Mathe comes back to us. I think you are back. Just give us a 1, 2, 3 once again.
So of the 12 that I identified, as 4 of them have already passed on. 3 were killed execution style, the first one being March 2023, the second October 2025, and the third, which is witness D, was December 2025. And last night, we then responded to the suicide of Wiandre Pretorius at a filling station in Boksburg.
Yeah. All right. Brigadier, the audio to you is good now, but we're going to just ask you to turn on your camera because that seems to be switched off. But while you do that, I'm going to pose my second question to you, and that is that he also was an informant, a police informant. On what case was he allegedly keeping you, members of the South African police, updated on?
Okay, so he was not a police informant, but he was a police reservist. He served between 2008 and 2018, and he was not an active reservist at the time during which he was being investigated and at the time of his death.
His partner, this is someone who's been described as a fiancé to him, was with him at the time that we understand he took his own life at the filling station in Brakpan. She also was mentioned by witness D, Marius van der Merwe, who was shot and killed outside his home in December last year. Are you worried about her safety? Are there any plans to try and safeguard her if she is a person of interest?
I can confirm that in relation to the murder of Emmanuel Mbense, I would have mentioned earlier that there are 12 persons of interest. I, however, cannot mention their names or identify them up until they have been arrested and they appear in court. But I can confirm that we were told, we were briefed by IPID, in which she was mentioned as a person of interest. I can confirm that a notice of intended suspension was signed off by the National Commissioner. She is one of 2 still serving police officers that have been served with notices of suspension. We will be awaiting their representation, but I cannot go into further detail on that particular process because it is an internal departmental process. And as I've indicated with regards to the murder of Emmanuel Mbense, the investigation has been finalized, the docket handed over to the Director of Public Prosecutions, and we are awaiting a decision and a way forward.
Okay, thank you very much for that information, Brigadier. I think it does indeed shine a spotlight somewhat that this particular case is not dying off, is not about to become a cold case, because that was going to be my final question to you to say, does this compromise the case in any way, the departure of these 4 people, the deaths of these 4 people? And I think in a way you may have just answered partially on that score.
So absolutely not. We still have 8 persons of interest, or rather suspects, that are still alive. And as I've indicated, the investigation has been finalized by both IPID and SAPS. And I think we are ready to move forward in terms of effecting the necessary arrest. I think we're just working closely through the Director of Public Prosecutions for a way forward. But we do believe that the evidence that we have gathered over the years and the piecing together of information and gathering of evidence, we are quite ready for court, and we are quite ready to effect the necessary arrest. So with 8 persons of interest, or suspects rather, still alive, we do believe that we've got a watertight case that will be able to stand in court.
That was my final question, but I think in a way, now that this case is still very much alive, what would your word of reassurance be to the Mbense family? Because they have since turned to AfriForum, that organization's investigating unit, to say, please help us because we're not getting joy from the state. What's your reassurance to them?
Well, let's take this opportunity to reassure the family that both IPID and the police have been hard at work. There are cases that are often easy to solve, and there are those that are quite complex. So I think in this particular case of the murder of Emmanuel Mbense, it really required the investigators to go deeper and to gather all evidence and to ensure that when they hand over the docket to the Director of Public Prosecutions, then they have a case that will be able to stand in court. So it's all is not lost. We've got full faith and confidence in the investigating team that has been working on this particular murder case for a number of years. And we are quite hopeful that in the coming few days or even weeks, we may see the first arrest on the case of the murder of Emmanuel Mbense. So just to say to the family, our main priority and goal is to ensure that you find the necessary closure and that justice prevails for Emmanuel Mbense.
Thank you very much for your time, Brigadier Athlenda Mathe, and confirming for us tonight the latest developments around this case, and that is that the fiancé of Wiandre Pretorius, the man who took his own life outside a petrol station last night, his fiancée is about to be issued with a letter of suspension from the police's management, and that she, on top of it, could well be among those that may be arrested, among the 8 that may be arrested for the murder of Mr. Emmanuel Mbense.